Welcome to the 1,000 Nights and 1 Night. Now when it was the 333rd night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Budur had written the missive, she sealed it and gave it to me. And I said, O my lady, in good sooth, this thy letter will make the sick man whole and ease the thirsting soul. Then I took it and I went from her when she called me back and said to me, O son of Mansur, say to him, she will be thy guest this night. At this, I joyed with exceeding great joy and carried the letter to Jubayr, whom I found with his eyes fixed intently on the door, expecting the reply. And as soon as I gave him the letter, he opened and read it and understood it. He uttered a great cry, and he fell down in a fainting fit. When he came to himself, he said, O Ibn Mansur, did she indeed write this note with her hand and feel it with her fingers? Answered I, O my lord, do folk write with their feet? And by Allah, O commander of the faithful, I had not done speaking these words when we heard the tinkle-tinkle of her anklets in the vestibule, and she entered. And seeing her, he sprang to his feet as though nothing pained or ailed him, and he embraced her like the letter A embraceth the letter L. And the infirmity that erst would not depart at once left him. Then he sat down, but she abode standing, and I said to her, O my lady, why dost thou not sit? Said she, O Ibn Mansur, save on a condition that is between us, I will not sit. I asked, And what is that? And she answered, None may know lovers' secrets, and put her mouth to Jubayr's ear and whispered to him, whereupon he replied, I hear and I obey. Then he rose and said somewhat in a whisper to one of his slaves, who went out and returned in a little while with a qazi and 2 witnesses. Thereupon Jubayr stood up, and taking a bag containing 100,000 dinars, said, O qazi, marry me to this young lady, and write this sum to her marriage settlement. Quoth the qazi to her, Say thou, I consent to this. I consent to this. Quoth she, whereupon he drew up the contract of marriage, and she opened the bag, and taking out a handful of gold, gave it to the qazi and the witnesses, and handed the rest to Jubayr. Thereupon the qazi and the witnesses withdrew, and I sat with them in mirth and merriment till the most part of the night was past, when I said in my mind, These are lovers, and they have been this long while separated. I will now arise and go sleep in some place afar from them, and leave them to their privacy one with another. So I rose, but she caught hold of my skirt, saying, What thinkest thou to do? Nothing but so and so, answered I, upon which she rejoined, Sit thee down, and when we will be rid of thee, we will send thee away. So I sat down with them till near daybreak, when she said to me, O Ibn Mansur, go to yonder chamber, for we have furnished it for thee, and it is thy sleeping place. Thereupon I rose and went thither, and slept till morning, when a page brought me a basin and ewer, and I made the ablution and prayed the dawn prayer. Then I sat down, and presently, behold, Jubayr and his beloved came out of the bath in the house, and I saw them both wringing their locks. So I wished them good morning, and gave them joy of their safety and reunion, saying to Jubayr, That which began with constraint and conditions hath ended in cordial contentment. He answered, Thou sayest well, and indeed thou deservest thy honorarium. And he called his treasurer and said, Bring hither 3,000 dinars. So he brought a purse containing the gold pieces, and Jubayr gave it to me, saying, Favor us by accepting this. But I replied, I will not accept it till thou tell me the manner of the transfer of love from her to thee, after so huge an aversion. Quoth he, Hearkening and obedience. Know that we have a festival called the New Year's Day, and when all people fare forth, and take boat, and go a-pleasuring on the river. So I went out with my comrades, and saw a skiff, wherein were 10 damsels like moons, and amongst them the Lady Budur, lute in hand. She preluded in 11 modes, then returning to the first, sang these 2 couplets. Fire is cooler than fires in my breast. Rock is softer than heart of my lord. Marvel I that he formed to hold in water soft frame heart, rock hard. Said I to her, Repeat the couplets and the air, but she would not. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 334th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Jubayr continued. So cried I to her, Repeat the couplets and the air, but she would not. Whereupon I bade the boatmen pelt her with oranges, and they pelted her till we feared her boat would founder, and then we went our way. And this is how the love was transferred from her heart to mine. So I wished them joy of their union, and taking the purse with its contents, I returned to Baghdad. Now when the Caliph heard Ibn Mansur's story, his heart was lightened, and the restlessness and oppression from which he suffered forsook him. And they also told the tale of the Man of Al-Yaman and his 6 slave girls. The Caliph of Al-Mamun was sitting one day in his palace, surrounded by his lords of the realm and officers of state, and there were present also before him all his poets and cup companions, amongst the rest ones named Mohammed of Basra. Presently the Caliph turned and said to him, O Mohammed, I wish thee forthwith to tell me something that I have never heard before. And he replied, O Commander of the Faithful, dost thou wish me to tell thee a thing I have heard with my ears, or a thing I have seen with my eyes? Quoth Al-Mamun, Tell me whichever is the rarer. So Muhammad al-Basri began, Know then, O Commander of the Faithful, that there lived once upon a time a wealthy man who was a native of Al-Yaman. But he emigrated from his native land and came to the city of Baghdad, whose sojourn so pleased him that he transplanted hither his family and possessions. Now he had 6 slave girls like moons, one and all, the first white, the second brown, the third fat, the fourth lean, the 5th yellow, and the 6th lamp black, and all 6 were comely of countenance, and perfect in accomplishment, and skilled in the arts of singing and playing upon musical instruments. Now it so chanced that one day he sent for the girls and called for meat and wine, and they ate and drank and were mirthful and made merry. Then he filled the cup, and taking it in his hand, said to the blonde girl, O new moon face, let us hear somewhat of thy pleasant songs. So she took the lute, and tuning it, made music thereon with such sweet melody that the place danced with glee, after which she played a lively measure, and sang these couplets. I have a friend, whose form is fixed with mine eyes, whose name deep buried in my very vitals lies. Whenas remembers him my mind, and all heart am I, and when on him my gaze is turned, I am all eyes. My censure said, Forswear, forget the love of him. Whatso is not to be, how shalt be? My reply is, quoth I, O censure mine, go forth from me avaunt, and make not light of that on humans heavy lies. Hereat their master rejoiced, and drinking off his cup, gave the damsels to drink, after which he said to the berry brown girl, O brazier light, and joy of the sprite, let us hear thy lovely voice, whereby all the hearken are ravished with delight. So she took the lute, and thereon made harmony till the place was moved to glee. Then, captivating all hearts with her graceful swaying, she sang these couplets. I swear by the face fair's life I'll love but thee, till death us part, nor other love but thine I'll see. O full moon, with thy loveliness mantilla over the loveliest of earth beneath thy banner be. Thou who surpassest all the fair in pleasantness, may Allah, Lord of worlds, be everywhere with thee. The master rejoiced, and drank off his cup, and gave the girls to drink, after which he filled again, and taking the goblet in his hands, signed to the fat girl, and bade her sing, and play a different motive. So she took the lute, and striking a grief-dispelling measure, sang these couplets. Ah, thou but deign consent, O wish to heart affied, I care not wrath and rage to all mankind betide, and if thou show the fairest face which gives me life, I reck not on a diminished heads the kings go hide. I seek thy favours only from this versal world, O thou in whom all beauty doth firm fixed abide. The man rejoiced, and emptying his cup, gave the girls to drink. Then he signed to the thin girl, and said, O hour of paradise, feed thou our ears with sweet words and sounds. So she took the lute, and tuning it, preluded and sang these two couplets. Say me, on Allah's path hast death not dealt to me, turning from me while I to thee patiently. Say me, is there no judge of love to judge us twain, and do me justice wronged mine enemy be thee? Their lord rejoiced, and emptying the cup, gave the girls to drink. Then filling another, he signed to the yellow girl and said to her, O son of the day, let us hear some nice verses. So she took the lute, and preluding after the goodliest fashion, sang these couplets. I have a lover, and when drawing him, he draws on me a sword blade glancing grim. Allah avenge some little of his wrongs, who holds my heart, yet wrecks o'erbearing whim. Oft thought, I say, renounce him, heart, yet heart will no turn to other turn excepting him. He is my wish, and will of all men, fate's envious hand to me's eyes grudging him. The master rejoiced, and drank, and gave the girls to drink. Then he filled the cup, and taking it in hand, signed to the black girl, saying, O pupil of the eye, let us have a taste of thy quality, though it be but 2 words. So she took the lute, and tuning it and tightening the strings, preluded in various modes, then returned to the first, and sang to a lively air these couplets. Ho! Ye mine eyes, let prodigal tears go free. This ecstasy would see me be unbe. All ecstasies I dree for sake of friend. I fondle mog enviers' jealousy. Censures forbid me from this rosy cheek, yet e'er inclines my heart's rosary. Cups of pure wine, time was when circulating. In joy what time the lute sang melody, while kept his troth the friend who madded me, yet made me rising star of bliss to see. But with time turned he not by sin of mine, then such a turn can aught more bitter be? Upon his cheek there grows and glows a rose, nay, 2, whereof grant Allah one to me. And when prostration by our law allowed to aught but Allah at his feet, I have bowed. Thereupon rose the 6 girls, and kissing the ground before their lord, said to him, Do thou justice between us, O our lord. So he looked at their beauty and loveliness, and the contrast of their colors, and praised Allah Almighty, and glorified him. Then said he, There is none of you but hath learnt the Quran by heart, and mastered the musical art, and is versed in the chronicles of yore, and the doings of people which have gone before. So it is my desire that each of you rise, and pointing finger at her opposite, praise herself and dispraise her concubine, her co-concubine. That is to say, let the blonde point to the brunette, the plump to the slender, the yellow to the black, after which the rivals, each in her turn, shall do the like with the former. And be this illustrated with citations from the Holy Writ, and somewhat of anecdotes and verse, so as to show forth your fine breeding and elegance of your pleading. And they answered him, We hear and we obey. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 335th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the handmaids answered the Man of Al-Yaman, We hear and we obey. Accordingly, the blonde rose first, and pointing at the black girl, said to her, Out on thee, blackamoor! It is told by tradition that whiteness saith, I am the shining light. I am the rising moon of the 14th night. My hue is pendant, and my brow is resplendent, and of my beauty quoth the poet. White girl with softly rounded polished cheeks, as if a pearl concealed by beauty's boon. Her statue a lift-like, her smile like mim, and o'er her eyes 2 brows that bend like none. 'Tis as her glance were arrow, and her brows bows ever bent to shoot death dart eftsoon. If cheek and shape thou view, there shalt thou find rose, myrtle, basil, and narcissus wone. Men wanton gardens plant and set the branch. How many garths thy stature branch doth own? So my color is like the hail and healthy day, and the newly colored orange spray, and the star of sparkling ray. And indeed, quoth Almighty Allah in his precious book to his prophet Moses, on whom be peace, put thy hand into thy bosom, it shall come forth white without hurt. And again he saith, but they whose face shall become white shall be in the mercy of Allah, therein shall they remain forever. My color is a sign, a miracle, and my loveliness supreme, and my beauty a term of extreme. It is on the like of me that raiment showeth fair and fine, and to the like of me that hearts incline. Moreover, in whiteness are many excellences. For instance, the snow falleth white from the heaven, and it is traditional that the beautifulest of colors is white. The Moslems also glory in white turbans. But I should be tedious were I tell all that may be told in praise of white. Little and enough is better than too much of unfilling stuff. So now I will begin with thy dispraise, O black of color, O color of ink and blacksmith's dust, thou whose face is like the raven, which bringeth about the parting of lovers. Verily the poet saith in praise of white and blame of black. Seest thou that pearls are prized for milky hue, but with a Durham buy we coals in load, and while white faces enter paradise, black faces crowd Jannah's black abode. And indeed, it is told in certain histories related on the authority of devout men that Noah, on whom be peace, was sleeping one day with his sons Cham and Shem seated at his head, when a wind sprang up and, lifting his clothes, uncovered his nakedness, whereat Cham looked and laughed and did not cover him. But Shem arose and covered him. Presently their sire awoke, and learning what had been done by his sons, blessed Shem and cursed Sham. So Shem's face was whitened, and from him sprang the prophets and the orthodox caliphs and kings, whilst Sham's face was blackened, and he led forth to the land of Abyssinia, and of his lineage came the blacks. All people are of one mind in affirming the lack of understanding of the blacks, even as saith the adage, how shall one find a black with a mind? Quoth her master, sit thee down, thou hast given us sufficient and even excess. Thereupon he signed to the negress, who rose and pointing her finger at the blonde said, dost thou not know that in the Quran set down to his prophets and apostles is transmitted the saying of God the Most High, by the night which it covereth all things with darkness, by the day when it shineth forth. If the night were not the more illustrious, verily Allah had not sworn by it, nor had given it precedence of the day. And indeed, all men of wit and wisdom accept this. Knowest thou that the black is the ornament of youth, and that when hoariness descended for the head, did lights pass away, and the hour of death draweth in sight? Were not black the most illustrious things, Allah had not set in it the core of the heart, and the pupil of the eye. And how excellent is the saying of the poet, I love not black girls, but because they show youth's color, tinct of eyes and heart core's hue. Nor are in error who unlove the white, and hoary hairs, and winding sheet as shoe. And that another one said, black girls not white are they, all worthy love I see. Black girls wear dark brown lips, white's blotch of leprosy. And of a third, black girls in acts are white, and 'tis as though like eyes with purest shine and sheen they show. If I go daft for her, be not amazed. Black bile drives melancholic mad, we know. 'Tis as my color with the noon of night, for all no moon be, its splendors glow. Moreover, is the foregathering of lovers good that but in the night? Lest this quality and profit suffice thee, what protecteth lovers from spies and censures like the blackness of night's darkness, and what causeth them to fear discovery from the whiteness of dawn's brightness? So, how many claims to honor are there not in blackness, and how excellent is the saying of the poet, I visit them, and night black lendeth aid to me. Secondly, love, but dawn white is mine enemy. And that of another, how many a night I've passed with the beloved of me, while gloom with dusky tresses veiled our desires. But when the morn light showed, it caused me sad affright, And I to morning said, Who worship light are liars. And said a third, He came to see me hiding neath the skirt of night, hasting his steps as wended he in cautious plight. I rose and spread my cheek upon his path-like rug, abject, and trailed my skirts to hide it from his sight. But rose the crescent moon, and strave its best to show the world our loves like nail-slice rang radiant light. Then what befell, befell. I need not aught describe, but think thy best, and ask me not of wrong or right. Meet not thy lover save at night, for fear of slander. The sun's a tittle-tattler, and the moon's pander. And a fifth, I love not white girls blown with fat who puffed and pant. The maid for me is young brunette, ebon point scant. I'd rather ride a colt that's dark upon the day of race and set my friends upon the elephant. And a sixth, my lover came to me one night, enclipped we both with fond embrace, and lay together till we saw the morning come with swiftest pace. Now I pray Allah and my Lord to unite us of his grace, and make night last me long as he lies in the arms that tightly lace. Were I to set forth all the praises of blackness, my tale would be tedious, but little enough is better than too much of unfulfilling stuff. As for thee, O blonde, thy collar is that of leprosy, and thine embrace is suffocation. And it is of report that hoarfrost and icy cold are in Ghana, for the torment of the wicked. Again, of things black and excellent in ink, wherewith is written Allah's world, and were it not for black, ambergris, and black musk, there would be no perfumes to carry to kings. How many glories, I may not mention, dwell in blackness, and how well saith the poet, Seest not that musk, the night brown musk, e'er claims the highest price, whilst for a load of whitest lime none more than Durham bids. And while white specks upon the eyes deforms the loveliest youth, black eyes discharge the sharpest shafts and lashes from their lids. Quoth her master, Sit thee down, this much suffices. So she sat down, and he signed to the fat girl, who rose. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 336th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the Man of Al-Yaman, the master of the handmaids, signed to the fat girl who rose, and pointing her fingers at the slim girl, bared her calves and wrist, and uncovered her stomach, showing its dimples and the plump rondure of her navel. Then she donned a shift of fine stuff that exposed her whole body, and said, Praise be Allah who created me, for that he beautified my face, and made me fat, and fair of the fattest and fairest, and likened me to branches laden with fruit, and bestowed upon me abounding beauty and brightness, and praise be no less for that he hath given me the precedence, and honoured me when he mentioned me in his holy book. Quoth the Most High, He brought a fatted calf, and he hath made me like unto a verdure full of peaches and pomegranates, and every sooth, even as the townsfolk long for fat birds and eat of them, and love not lean birds, so do the sons of Adam desire fat meat and eat of it. How many vauntful attributes are there not in fatness, and how well saith the poet, Farewell thy love for see the caliphs on the move. O man, canst bear to say adieu and leave thy love? 'Tis as her going were to seek her neighbour's tent, the gate of fat fair maid, whom hearts shall all approve. Sawest thou ever one stand before a flesher's stall, but sought of him fat flesh? The wife says, Joyance is in three things, eating meat, and writing meat, and putting meat into meat. As for thee, O thin one, thy calves are like the shanks of sparrows, or the pokers of furnaces, and thou art a cruciform plank, or a piece of flesh poor and rank. There is naught in thee to gladden the heart, even as saith the poet. With Allah take I refuge from whatever driveth me to bed with one like foot rasp, or the roughest ropery. In every limb she hath a horn that buttered me whene'er I fain would rest, so morn and eve I wend me wearily. Quoth her master, Sit thee down, this much sufficeth. So she sat down, and he signed to the slender girl, who rose as she were a willow wand, or a rattan frond, or a stalk of sweet basil, and said, Praised be Allah who created me, and beautified me, and made me embraces the end of all desires, and likened me to the branch, whereto all hearts incline. If I rise lightly. If I sit prettily. I am nim-witted at a jest, and merry-souled than mirth itself. Never heard I one describe his mistress, saying, My beloved is the bigness of an elephant, or like a mountain long and broad, but rather, My lady hath a slender waist and slim shape. Furthermore, a little food filleth me, and a little water quenches my thirst. My sport is agile, and my habit active, and I am sprightlier than the sparrow, and lighter skipping than the starling. My favours are the longing of the lover, and the delight of the desire, and I am goodly of shape, sweet of smile, and graceful as the bending willow wand, or the rattan cane, or the stalk of the basil plant. Nor is there any one compared with me in loveliness, even as saith one of me. Thy shape with willow branch I dare compare, and hold thy figure as my fortunes fair. I wake each morning distraught, and follow thee, and from the rival's eye fear I fare. It is for me like of me that amorous run mad, and that those who desire me wax distracted. If my lover would draw me to him, I am drawn to him, and if he would have me incline to him, I incline to him, and not against him. But now as for thee, O fat of body, thine eating is the feeding of an elephant, and neither much nor little filleth thee. When thou liest with a man who is lean, he hath no ease of thee, nor can he anyways take his pleasure of thee, for the bigness of thy belly holdeth him off going in unto thee, and the fatness of thy thighs hindereth him from coming at thy slit. What goodness is there in grossness, and what courtesy or pleasantness in thy coarseness? Fat flesh is fit for naught but the fleshier, nor is there one point therein that pleadeth for praise. If one joke with thee, thou art angry. If one sport with thee, thou art sulky. If thou sleep, thou snorest. If thou walk, thou lollest out thy tongue. If thou eat, thou art never filled. Thou art heavier than mountains, and fouler than corruption and crime. Thou hast in thee nor agility, nor benedict, nor thinkest thou of aught save meat and sleep. When thou pissest, thou swishest. If thou turn, thou gruntest like a bursting wineskin, or an elephant transmogrified. If thou go to the water closet, thou needest one to wash thy gap, and pluck out the hairs which overgrow it. And this is the extreme of sluggishness, and the sign outward and visible of stupidity. In short, there is no good thing about thee, and indeed the poet saith of thee, heavy and swollen like a urine bladder blown, with hips and thighs like mountain propping piles of stone. Whene'er she walks in western hemisphere, her tread makes the far eastern world with weight to moan and groan. Quoth her master, Sit thee down, this sufficeth. So she sat down, and he signed to the yellow girl, who rose to her feet, and praised Allah Almighty, and magnified his name, calling down peace and blessings on Mohammed, the best of his creatures, after which she pointed her finger at the brunette, and said to her, And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say, and so do I cease my tale for the day, until it be morrow.